Hello everyone, today we're going to talk about Warcraft Rumble. I have a lot of thoughts and had a lot of thoughts about this as I was playing it, especially after release at BlizzCon, but I thought I'd give myself pretty much a week-ish of just playing it pretty regularly to get a real good feel for the game and then just give my first impressions, what I think about the game, what's good about the game, and what is bad about the game, and what hopefully will be improved. So I've made some notes here. We're going to go through them. I will chuck some stuff up on the screen if it's needed. But yeah, this is generally just a sit down and talk kind of video. So first off, we may as well start with the positives, and then we'll end on the negatives. To start, the gameplay is just good. Like, it's fun. It's just a fun game to actively play. I think from what I can remember from playing Clash, this has that style of gameplay. Of course, it's pretty obvious to anyone who's played it, but I do think the extra layers they've added to the experience really help and add multiple layers of strategy. The different maps with different layouts, with different verticality as well as the resource control, which is something I've really enjoyed in PvP, especially is trying to fight for those resources, that extra gold to get yourself ahead of your opponent and really trying to win that way. So I think overall, the best way a game can start, in an opinion, is, well, the game is fun to play, and I think it definitely ticks that box. Next up, we have a lot of gameplay variety already as well. Like, for maybe recently I've gotten so used to games launching with limited features, and it's like, yeah, we'll add the good stuff later. Whereas this, there is a lot to do. There is the PvE campaign, then there's the PvE campaign on hard mode, which to finish, you actually have to clear each hard mode boss, which have extra layers of difficulty, and not just more stats, but more mechanics. You have to do that with a hero from each family, at least. So that's how you clear those. So there is a lot. I'm not even close to getting that done yet, even though there are people a lot further ahead than me. There are the dungeons, which are a lot of fun, doing quick, sort of fun, weird dungeon runs to level up your actual army, which if you've not seen that, you can basically level up the slots that you put your cards in. So you can have a horde level where if you put a horde character, sorry, in that slot, it gains a level. But then you can level that slot up 3 times, I believe, and maybe 4 in the future, but we'll get to that later maybe. But it can level to gold, so suddenly your minis have whatever level they actually are +3 if they're in the right type of slot. Those rotate week by week based on families. So at this moment in time, it is Horde. So you can level your Horde heroes up and their armies. So that's really fun, something a bit different. And also cool to just see the dungeons from World of Warcraft that I have spent many years of my life playing. It's cool to see them out in a slightly different game style. So yeah, I think there's that. There's the PvP as well, which I love. Anyone who knows me, I am very focused on competitive play and PvP. So that's definitely my favorite thing to do in the game, like no questions asked. And within that PvP, the seasons, the maps change, the type of towers change halfway through the season. The rules can change as well. I've not actually personally played on them, like different ruled maps yet, but I believe they have happened and they do exist. So hopefully we get to see those soon, because I think that's something that's really good as well for a fairly straightforward game. When you look at it and you see the rules of the game, mixing it up with different maps, different types of towers, different objectives is a real great way to keep the PvP fresh and also keep it engaging and keep the meta sort of naturally evolving, because certain things will be good on certain styles of map and certain things won't, and that will change as time goes on. And then on top of that, there are quests, which you can use if you're in a bit of a bind for XP. You can use quests to maybe get some XP, and they are targeted based on the army you currently have selected. So they're not completely random. It's not like certain other games that give you just rewards for completely random things you're not using, which is not that fun. So at least you can try and target the units you actually want to level up. And yeah, so overall, just a ton of gameplay variety. And there's going to be more. They've already announced at BlizzCon that the raids are coming back, but I'll talk about that in a minute. The next one for me is the skill expression in the game, I think is pretty high already. There's a lot of little tricks you can do in terms of timing of placing your minis, where you place your minis, and how you react to your opponents. Like not only as you learn what talents that your opponents, I'm talking mainly about PvP by the way, not only that you learn the timings and what talents your opponents have, but also how to deal with them. For example, with Unbound minis, you can turn minis that like do cone attacks away by summoning Unbound behind them and making them target that. And you can, for example, one thing I was doing earlier today was if Banshees were coming at me, I'd wait till they get close to my base and summon a Kobold. And it's like, okay, you've spent 4 gold on a Banshee and you've stole a Kobold. Nice one. And there's a lot of cool little tricks that I think the more we see people play and experiment, the more we will see sort of come out in the general game plan. So yeah, there's a big difference, I think, even though the game, again, looks simple, play your minis, attack your opponent. There's going to be a big difference between a good player and a even average player, right? So I'm excited to see how that develops going forward. Next on my list is there is no energy system in this game. So although quests are limited to, I want to say 20 or 30 a day. I can't believe I forgot this because I was talking about earlier. I should have checked, but whatever. We're doing this in one take. But they do stack up to, I think, 300 quests you can hold. So if you don't play for a week, you'll be stacking those quests that you can just chain until they run out. The only weird thing about them, I think, is there's no indicator of how many quests you have stacked up. So that's something I think they could add. Maybe they assume people won't empty them, but I know multiple people who've run out of quests to do for the day. But other than that, there is no energy system. You can PvP as much as you want. You can attempt PvE as much as you want. You can do your quests. You can spam dungeons till you literally cannot do them, as in you cannot complete the dungeon because it's too hard, because they do get harder over time. So the no energy system is amazing. I think that was one of the things I was worried about when the game was announced. So happy to see that. You can basically play for hours and hours and hours and not have to worry about, do I have to buy more energy? Do I run out of energy? Can I do this activity or can I do that one? I think overall, very, very positive. Next up, raids. You can watch this if you just go on YouTube and just watch the BlizzCon panel on Rumble. You see that Molten Core's coming, which is going to be a co-op raid. You can play with a friend from your guild, and you have to deal with these bosses, these big raid encounters together. And I think that is such a great, like, again, additional style of content, but that brings something really different to the table. Like, yes, it's still the same basic gameplay, but you're sharing this huge board with your teammate, and also these raid encounters, from even just what they've mentioned about Molten Core, seem very difficult, very demanding, and really tough. So I'm excited to see what that happens. I think that's coming early next year, so I'm looking forward to that. Next one, there's pretty much an infinite amount of minis and heroes they can add, so like troops and heroes. The Warcraft universe is full of heroes they could add before they even come close to having to, like, oh, do we need to make our own custom Rumble heroes at this point? Same with minis. Like, even if you look at just Warcraft 3 and all of the units in that game and all of the heroes in that game, we've got a long time till we're done yet. So really cool that they have basically just, they can go anywhere in the Warcraft world, I guess, in terms of what minis they want to make, what styles of minis, what different abilities they can have. There's a lot to go. Balancing as well, that kind of leads into that as well, where balancing is going to be a constant discussion, especially among PvPers, and they have a lot of things they can change, right? Cost of the mini, obviously damage, health, scaling, abilities. They can then balance talents on top of that, and so on, so on. So I think they've got a lot of options for balance. And then finally, a huge one for me, and something I personally really enjoy, is your PvP rating. Although you have one overall rating, which takes your 3 best heroes and adds them together, your PvP rating is actually split per hero, which is amazing because it means you can, like, try hard on these 3 or 4 or 5 heroes. And then if you're just feeling something a bit different, like I did it the other day with Maev, you can just say, well, I've not even played any PvP on this character, on this hero. I'm just going to jam and see how well I can do and experiment with certain builds. And you don't get punished yet. It's not like your rating on this really high character goes down. It's just that hero and that hero alone that you affect with the rating. And I think that's so good to let players just mess around with certain heroes, try like cool strategies, because again, if you want to play old Murkai and do silly, spam Murloc things, which is great, you can, and it isn't having a negative impact on your other progression with your heroes in PvP. So yeah, I think that's fantastic, and maybe they can add some kind of casual queue, or challenge a friend, which we'll get to later. But yeah, I think those things are really, really good, and has made me have a lot of fun with the game in the first sort of official week of launch. I played a little bit in beta, but on and off for like a week or so beforehand, nothing too crazy. But with the good comes the bad. So here we're going to get into the problems, and some of them are big, I would say, honestly, because people might think, oh, Raven, he's been involved with Blizzard a lot in the past, and is he just going to say everything's great? Of course not. I'm not an idiot, right? So let's go to the bad. The biggest singular problem for me, and I think for most people right now, and I'm sure the development team are aware, is general optimization of the game running on things itself, whether that's BlueStacks, whether that's type of phone A, type of phone B, tablet over here, tablet over there, Android or iOS. From what I gather from everyone's experiences that have told me in my stream, to also myself, one, just sometimes the game just crashes and does stuff and acts weird and locks you out, and you get weird errors, which is a shame, because I've had some people that like get locked out. I got locked out of a dungeon for a while. If you do get locked out of dungeons, you can try making your main army, the one you select in your army choice, the same hero as the hero you've locked in the dungeon. Close the game, reopen the game, and see if that helps. It might not, but it's helped a lot of people, so fingers crossed. That's an extra tip. But yeah, general optimization and loading times. The amount of time you spend when playing this game on the loading screen is silly, right? We all know it's stupid. Surely there must be a reason why this hasn't been improved, or I imagine it is being worked on, because no one, whether it's a dev, whether it's a casual player, or whether it's a hardcore player, sits there thinking, oh, I'm having fun here, as the game sits on loading and loading and loading. I've had I don't know, most of the phone games don't load instantly, but close, and it's not like, as far as I'm aware, it's like this game is doing anything truly wild that would take so long. We're not getting I don't know, 4K cinematics that are loading or something, right? So I'm not a dev, I don't know how these things work, but I imagine there's a lot of improvement that can be made in those loading times, because it does suck, right? Let's be honest, it sucks to go, oh, I got out of this fight, I want to restart and try again, like in PvP. Right, let's give me a few minutes while it loads. That's not something people want. So yeah, general optimization and loading, I think, priority number one for me. A few other things though. The PvE fights, or the difficulty of those fights, it feels like you're on a roller coaster sometimes. You can just steamroll some fights and then get absolutely annihilated with no hope of victory on others. And a part of me wonders, is that because you just happen to have a good build for a certain fight? Because this game is very much like, to do certain bosses, you need specific strategies. You don't just say, this is my build, I'm going to clear every single PvE boss in the game with this one build. That is, maybe someone can do it, but it's very unlikely. So whether it's that, whether it's just unfortunate timing that you go into a new boss, you don't really know what it does, you try and work it out, and you get stomped, then you try again, you get stomped, you try again, you get stomped. It's tricky. And there's also the extra layer of, if you do need to switch builds, and you've identified that, sometimes your minis are way too low level, because they're not ones you've played with that you really need to use in this sort of boss. And again, it's not that I don't think the PvE should be challenging. I think the PvE is challenging, and I've had plenty of bosses that took me a lot of tries to do, trying to work out what's going on. But I feel like within the same zone, you can have one boss fight that is so obviously easy. Like, the base mechanic of the boss is just, it hits you a bit or throws rocks at you, and you just have to just play cards, and it just goes. And then some bosses start with, I don't know, like you're facing down an army from second one and you're starting on 3 gold, right? Like, these sort of boss mechanics are really rough, and it feels very spiky in terms of difficulty. It doesn't feel like the game gets harder as you go, which you could argue should be the case, but it's like, oh, these 2 bosses were easy, this next boss feels impossible. I mean, I even did some hard bosses, like the last boss of a zone. I did some hard bosses, and I was barely paying attention, and I killed them. It's like, but then a boss in a previous zone of a lower level that wasn't a hard mode boss felt way harder. So I definitely feel like the balance in PvE is a little bit weird. I don't know if that's intended or not, but anyway, I can see it putting off some players. The next one's a bit of a weird one because I can't fully decide whether it's a something that is actively bad or I dislike or just something I need to understand more. But one of the issues, sorry, I've got something in my eye. One of the issues I've found is I think a lot of people won't enjoy being locked out of acquiring heroes or doing things for certain heroes or families, as they're called. So, for example, in case you don't know, the shop itself where you buy minis and the dungeons are locked to a family every, I want to say week, every week. And at the moment it's Horde. So the dungeon you can only do and level up your slots on Horde heroes. You can use different units from other families, no problem. But the heroes have to be Horde. So that's Ken, Grom, and Sneeds. And then the shop's the same. So you can get talents for like Alliance heroes from the shop, but you cannot be offered the hero or the stars to level them up from anything else except Horde. So for example, my Baron Rivendare right now is not uncommon. It's not leveled up once, so I don't have a talent on him. I can't even get a talent. And I literally will not see it in the shop this whole week to level up. So I cannot level Baron. And then there's the extra issue of, for example, I don't have any Blackrock heroes. So I just can't do Blackrock things. And I can't get a Blackrock hero because it won't be offered to me in the shop. So I feel like that's been something that's been maybe missed by the dev team, that just saying, oh, you can't do this type of hero thing because it's not the right week. And that's almost certainly, let's be honest, it's a problem that will go away in a few weeks once we've had one full rotation of each family and everyone's had the opportunity to get the heroes. But it is just something that you need to think about, especially for new players, right? If it's like, oh, complete this dungeon with a beast hero, then you need to get them. Or if it's, oh, you need to level up for your guild and you just don't have a hero like me. I cannot contribute to my Blackrock guild count because I just don't have a Blackrock hero and I can't get one. So it's a weird one. It's probably not the end of the world, but I definitely understand that there's a chance, especially with the dungeons, that players may feel a bit annoyed that they can't play what they want to play. Like, I main for no particular reason, but a lot of my highest PvP ranks are on Alliance characters. I'm kind of like weirdly a Jaina main right now, but I can't level up Jaina's army because it's not Alliance week in the dungeon. So I guess I just have to wait, and there's nothing I can do about that, which is fine. It's just something I can see people getting a bit annoyed with, but hey ho. The next one's one of the big ones, and one of the big ones I get asked a lot, and I will also answer the question, right? Is the game pay to win? So, one, it's the wrong question. People in my stream will know I've ranted about this, but asking a question of is the game pay to win is actually pointless, because if I said yes, your next question is, oh well, how pay to win is it? So really that was your question, right? What is the impact of spending money in the game? Because if you just say buying any level of power is pay to win, and that's terrible, right? If that's as black and white as you are, sure, fine. But if I said, if you spend $200 and all of your characters get 0.000000001 extra damage when things do a lot of damage, so it has a negligible impact, but you are literally buying power, is that just broken then? Is that a huge problem? Probably not for the majority of people. So really it's how does money affect the game? So first, in PvE, yes, you can kind of just infinitely spend to an extent and level up your characters, or you can spend a lot and level them up a lot and really progress your account fast if you just want to do things by over leveling it. But I'm also personally this is just me, but I don't overly care if, like, I know people who have cleared way more of the PvE content than me, whether they've spent or not, and I don't. That's good job. That's my kind of answer. The real one is, how does this work with PvP? So one thing I will start by saying is, right before launch, Blizzard did a patch, or the Rumble team did a patch that made it less pay to win, as you are now level capped at 1,000 and below rating, and then 2,000 and below, and then 3,000 and below. The problem is when you go above 3,000, your level of your minis in PvP, each one separately, is the actual level of the mini in your army, like it would be in PvE, divided by 3. So if you have level 15 mini, it would be level 5 in PvP. That's where the problem sort of slips in, right? Where if people have spent tons of money, they will have higher levels, which means in PvP, you could be, let's say, have level 6 minis on average, and face people with level 8 minis. And then what impact does that have? Is 2 levels enough to be, or to feel unbeatable, or just to be unbeatable? I know in the beta, before this change came in, I played with average level 3. So almost all my mains were level 3, and my opponent's level 6. And I'll tell you, that felt unbeatable, because they're double the strength. Well, not literally double, but the bonuses you get for each mini leveling are quite high. They're increasing health and damage. And they had more talents, or like, not more, they had stronger talents, or they had more minis with talents, is accurate, because at the time I didn't have any talents. So that has been reduced, but at the highest or higher ratings above 3,000, that's a problem, right? And that is something that, honestly, I don't have the answer to right now, because I am not there. I am not above 3,000, or I've not played much around that rating. And I also believe that most people haven't had the time to get there. I think we'll need to give it a few more weeks at least to see 2 things. One, how much people are spending to, say, max out their PvP power, or mini level. And also, what do either free to play or light spenders, small spenders, have to, where are they, right? If the average small spender or free to play has minis that are level 5, or, you know, in a couple of weeks time, or maybe even 6, and the spenders have like level 9s, that's probably going to be frustrating and a bit of a problem when you look at the higher ranks. Yeah, so that is something that is a concern, but something I can't overly comment on with any concrete information, because nothing's happened yet. So that, yeah, it's a bit of a worry. One thing I will say though, PvP at the first, like the capped ranks, which is so like below 1,000 rating, below 2,000, below 3,000, and this is per hero. So if you have not played, if a hero's on 0 rating that you have, you will be in that level 1 cap. It's not your overall account rating, it's that hero's rating in the caps. PvP within the caps, super fun, because it's balanced, apart from talents, I guess. But overall, the levels are balanced. It feels great. In a perfect world, the Rumble team would extend that higher, maybe. But, you know, I don't know what business decisions have to be made there, but it is something to be aware of. Next one, as we are moving on through the bad ones, or the concerns, I guess is probably more accurate, is the lack of deck lists or slots for your armies, army slots, whatever you want to call them. And by that, I mean, if you are playing PvP with Jaina, like I do a lot, and then you want to play her in PvE, unless your PvP build is perfect for PvE, you have to go in, click Jaina, okay, open this, okay, change this out, change that out, and it's annoying, especially with the loading times of stuff. Like, it all adds up to not playing the game time, right? Which is frustrating. I did mention this to, I think, some of the devs when I was there, but I think it would be great if even at the minimum level, we could get PvE Jaina and PvP Jaina, right? So if you queue for PvP, it auto loads whatever your PvP build is. If you queue for PvE, it's the PvE build. And I think that would, even though you could argue, let's have any amount of versions of the armies for each hero, sure, but I think at a base level, and at maybe even a realistic level of what we could get, that PvE and PvE, I think, is a reasonable split and a reasonable compromise of feature versus time it would take to implement said feature. So fingers crossed. That would be very, very nice. It's a little bit annoying to keep swapping and changing things all the time, but it is what it is. Next one, also linked to PvP. No challenger friend. They talked about having replays, shareable replays. The UI looks good. The spectator sort of overlay looks great. I'm very excited about that as someone who's just been spent last year playing a mobile game that took a while to get Challenger Friend in and does not have spectator in at all after a year. Well, a year and a half, I guess. I'm very excited to see these features. So I am sure they are working on Challenger Friend. They have to be because it's something that everyone wants, but it's not in yet. So fingers crossed that's something we can get soon. Then we can start talking about maybe having some fun tournaments where hopefully they give us tournament rule sets or PvP match rule sets. So if I face you, we can say units are capped at level 3, for example. So we don't have to worry about those shenanigans if we don't want. And I think finally is probably the guild size. Again, something I spoke to people, the Rumble team, when I was at BlizzCon, is guild size feels small at 15. So many people, can I be in your guild? Can I be in your guild? I'm like, I'm sorry, it's full. And unless people literally say they're going to stop playing, I have no reason to kick anyone. So I understand that if they make guild sizes just bigger and bigger and bigger, then the rewards have to be harder and harder and harder to get, and so on, right? And it get to the point where, like, well, where do you stop? You have to stop somewhere. They've said that they would maybe consider, pushing them up a bit to, like, say 20, maybe 25. But I think for me, the best outcome I've heard or suggestion is an alliance system where you still have your guild of 15 people, but that guild can be in an alliance of guilds where they don't, I mean, you could add alliance benefits or something at some point in the future, who cares? But the main thing would be you would have your guild players, and then within that you would have like an alliance chat, which is all the guilds can talk together, and you can see the alliance rankings. So you still have to work as your little guild, and you're working towards those rewards, but you would be part of an alliance of, maybe an alliance can be 4 guilds or something, right? And then you can chat with those other people in 4 guilds with a shared chat. You can see their rankings versus yours, and then even the guild rankings versus the guilds, right? If you say, like, out of the 4 guilds, who's the top guild in this alliance, right? And who needs to put some work in or something. I think that'll be really fun and sort of circumvent the problem of guild size too big. Because I don't think people overly care about being in the 15. They care about hanging out and having a way to communicate and match themselves against friends, right? And I think an alliance system would do that while still retaining the rewards overall from the 15 person guild size. But yeah, that's it overall. I think I didn't really have a strong plan for what this video was going to look like, but I just thought it's just easier to let's just sit and talk about it. And it also helps that I can just point people to this video if they want to hear my first impressions after, again, roughly a week of the game being out. So yeah, I think that's going to be it. Let me know what you think. Do you agree with my points? Do you disagree? Have I forgotten things? Are there anything that is really great that sticks out to you, or is there anything really bad that sticks out to you that I've forgotten about? Because I'll be sure to mention it next time, for sure. But yeah, guys, thanks a lot for watching. I appreciate it. I'll see you next time.